welcome everybody to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, May 16th, 2014.
It's just flying by, isn't it? It'll be Memorial Day before we know it, huh?
Yay.
Yeah. First of all, be sure and check out MetalunaBoutiqueandStones.com, where you can order. Kim, what is this lovely item that we have up here on the screen for the lovely people?
It's actually a trinket box. It's a dragon skull.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's only one left too, right?
Right now, yep.
So better hurry up and get online and go get that at
MetalunaBoutiqueandStone.com.
There you go. And
as of Sunday, I had 3 little furry jelly beans available for adoption.
Awesome. Please come get the jelly beans.
They're all boys.
Yeah. But people didn't come here to throw us yak about the store, did they?
Probably not.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you happen to be in the northeast Texas area, we are having a meet and greet barbecue tomorrow.
Yep.
So it's a potluck. Bring something. Come on out and join us for a little bit of fun talking and barbecue-ness.
And coffee.
And coffee. It's paranormal. Got to have coffee or energy drinks or something. Just don't fall for the scam on the rats, folks. That's all I can tell you. But tonight we are talking with Mr. Jason Stanton.
Hello, everyone. I'm here.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm all right.
Jason is the author of Unrested Peace. You're also the host of Ghost Chat Radio, which you can find on the CB Radio Network and on Thursday nights at 9, and on the DTM Radio Network, which was a PEN broadcast partner, at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So,
well, actually, I'm not on Sepia no more.
Oh, really?
It's just Monday nights from 6 to 8, and Tuesday nights from 9 to 11. I'm on DTM Wicked Radio.
Awesome.
And you can also find it on iHeartRadio as well.
Well, if they've listened to DTM, they can come here and watch it because they're our top broadcaster on our radio page. How have you been?
I've been okay. May has been horrible. It's May, but things are looking up brighter. Things are getting better.
Yeah. Well, and just so some of our viewers will know, give us a little background on Unrested Peace.
Absolutely. It's a nice little story of some past experiences that I've gone through as a kid. 14, 15 years old in that age limit group, I guess you can say. It was back in 1991, 92, there and about. Basically what it is my parents, we used to live in an apartment building back then, but, I had, there was 7 of us, my parents, and then I had, 4 brothers and sisters. So the place was starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller as we were growing up. So we wound up getting a house out in the middle of nowhere. And, it was an old house. You can tell by looking at it. It was extremely old. I didn't know exactly how old. I was 14 years old when we first moved in there. I didn't even care, But, it was a complete wreck and a mess. So we had to, obviously clean it up and, do a little bit of work here and there on it. But, after we were finally moved in, so forth and so on, about 2 or 3 weeks later, we started noticing some weird, strange things happening. And, I started, I guess you can say, investigating at that time. I mean, back then you didn't consider yourself an investigator. Hell, if you even said you looked for ghosts, you were, looked crazy. You had to go in an asylum. But, basically that's what I was doing. I was investigating, trying to figure out what exactly it was and why it was there and how it was there. But, long story short, I guess you can say, all those paranormal phenomena and there was a female that came into the picture where we had kind of a romance thing going on, so forth and so on. It all helped. Every bit of it, no matter what happened in the house paranormal-wise and that female, it all kind of helped me out emotionally and psychologically to grow into the guy I'm standing here today.
Wow. Was it a violent haunting?
I can't say it was violent, but there was one particular entity in there that I don't even know if it was, pissed off or whatever you want to consider it. But there was one time I was walking up the stairs, and it's in the book, but I stopped like right in the middle, and we had this kind of octagon-shaped um, window right there that led outside, and it was all stained glass and stuff. It was pretty interesting piece actually, and on top of the stairwell, there was his black mask just glaring down at me, and he didn't seem too happy. He did seem kind of like you don't belong here. That kind of energy and vibe was coming out of him, but. Nothing. I mean, nobody got hurt, and nobody got threatened in any way or anything like that.
Well, and the reason I ask is we're good friends with Stephen LaChance, Tim Yancey. These guys actually survived, like real oppression, and in Tim's case, it was just a really violent haunting.
Yeah, I know Stephen LaChance too. He's a real good guy, real good friend of mine. But no, I didn't experience anything that was violent. No one got hurt, but it was a bit uneasy. And yeah, at times I guess you can say it was kind of scary, but it just encouraged me to want to find out more and more and more, and the more I dug up, the more things happened, and the more things that I've encouraged to have happen, it just kept fueling my curiosity.
Right.
Did you see anything before this time, or just once you moved into the house?
Surprisingly, no. I didn't see anything before this time. And I say surprisingly because even before then, I used to hang out in cemeteries a lot, not to look for ghosts or anything like that. It just gave me some kind of inner peace, I guess you can say. It just, release of the world, and, here I am, and there's nothing there but a bunch of headstones and me. So, surprisingly, I didn't see anything before this particular event, but, I always had that curiosity, I guess you could say interest,
right.
and what's after death, but I never really, experienced anything to even want to look into it.
What was the hardest thing about writing it?
Writing this book, it was very emotional, a very emotional book for me to write, and I think that was the hardest part. I mean, the story was already written, so right. That wasn't too hard. I just had to put it into words. So well, no, not as many, but. Growing up, I wasn't exactly the most popular kid. I was picked on a lot. I was bullied a lot. And, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you're using that as a cliche to try to sell books. But no, that's not the case. It's true. I mean, I really wasn't the most liked kid. In fact, in high school, I was voted the number one most not to succeed in life. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Ouch.
And, writing this book, I kind of brought up a lot of those memories. And, I guess you can say in a way it was kind of regression, but not from any entities or anything like that. And bringing those up and trying to remember everything and get it into words. I mean, that was kind of the most painful thing that I had to do while writing it.
So your dedication said to all my high school friends, in your face?
Pretty much. I probably should have, but I'm not that kind of guy. Yeah. People grow up. I mean, kids are kids. They're stupid and they're idiots, but some of them still are idiots, which is kind of a good turn of events because they were the most popular kids, and now you can find them in jail. But I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to rub it in anyone's face, and I'm not going to look down at anyone because of it. It is what it is.
Yeah. How's the rest after going through this situation? How is the rest of the family? How they dealt with it?
My parents always remained skeptical. They didn't really believe anything was going on. So, I mean, they were kind of out of it, and they always, just thought of anything that would happen as, some kind of natural event. They would always have some kind of explanation, even though it wouldn't make any sense, but they'd have some explanation. And, sometimes when for example, my parents used to lock their bedroom door whenever they left. And this is in the book, too, actually. I can share a little bit about this. And, I was hanging out downstairs with that particular girl. We're macking it up and doing what we got to do. And all of a sudden, we were distracted by this loud bang upstairs, and I couldn't check it out because it was my parents' room. And when my parents came home, they noticed that in their closet they had a walk-in closet, and one of the shelves collapsed. I don't know why. There really wasn't anything on it, and they used to say they thought that I had broken in the room and tried to climb up on there and get something or whatever the case may be, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. But they always had some kind of explanation.
Right. Do you have anything? Do you think that your experience left any scars with you at all?
Scars?
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, it all helped me grow, psychologically and obviously emotionally, and as well as just my maturity level has raised. It has had an impact on me on that particular, in all those areas. It didn't scar me, I guess you can say. Doesn't make me look back and say, man, I wish that never happened or anything like that. But I can kind of look back at it and be thankful because without those, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the respect and the dignity that I carry on today.
Did your brothers and sisters have problems with them?
Well, I mean, they were all pretty much older than me. I mean, my oldest sister, she did witness a couple little things, and she brought it to my attention once. She said, Jay, can I talk to you? Have you noticed anything weird in this house? And I said, yeah, there's a lot of weird things going on in this house. What it is, I have no idea. But they were all older than me, and they were pretty much never even home most of the time. So, they weren't around too much.
Right. Can you tell our viewers where the house was?
Absolutely. The house was in Goshen, New York. It was on Quarry Road. It's out kind of in the farmland of New York, I guess you can say. It's all black dirt region and things like that. All surrounded by the farms and so forth. And it's a desolate road. It's really not that big. And I lived right next to the quarry. Well, the quarry was kind of in my backyard, I guess you can say. Right through the woods. And across the street, which is kind of interesting, there was a cemetery there, a real old cemetery. And I've got pictures of it, but it's all modernized pictures now, so you can't really get the full effect. But well, anyway, the cemetery was off kind of like in the woods, sort of, and hasn't been maintained, and it just went to complete crap. Right. The trees have overgrown, bushes were growing out all over the place, and the ground was matted with pine needles, and it was just real horrible looking. All the headstones were the same at that time. I didn't even see that many. Only 20 or 30 headstones. I mean, now if you look at it, you can literally look at it and say, wow, there's like 200 stones here. But back then, considering it wasn't maintenance or anything, I mean, everything was buried and it was hard to see. And I used to hang out in there a lot, which is kind of what led me on to the whole gathering EVPs and using compasses.
Yeah. Well, a compass is it's old school EMF detection. Some people don't understand that. They think it has to have a battery to do any kind of scientific investigation.
No, you don't need a battery. The equipment that you use for investigating in all reality, especially now, wasn't even designed for investigating for ghosts. It's all designed for some other field. It's just brought in from other fields because it seems to work. It's all extremely new equipment that we're using today. It still needs a lot more testing, in my honest opinion. You can never trust exactly what's coming out of there. When you're dealing with a compass, it's not going to lie to you. It's not going to do it. It's not going to, give you a fake reading because you're next to a microwave or your cell phone goes off. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you can. I mean, I've ran experiments with it to try to figure out exactly what would make it go off, a basic compass. And if you take a copper wire and coil it and put the compass in the center of it and hooked up a 9-volt battery on each end, and just clipped it, it will spin the dial on the compass. It will throw the magnetic field completely off. So, I mean, I guess you can say an electric current could, but it needs a flow of electric current, I guess you can say.
Right.
Like I said, a basic, microwave or your cell phone's not going to do it, or bad wiring in a house isn't going to, make it go off or anything like that. It literally has to be surrounded by that current. Right. So it's a very good tool to use out in the field.
And just so we don't get, because we've got plenty of time, and I wanted to kind of get into the investigating thing here in a little while. But back to the house, the reason I asked where it was located, was there any limestone formations anywhere near there, or major body of running water or anything?
There was no major body of running water next to it. Although, I mean, at the quarry, the rock quarry, I mean, yeah, they were digging stuff up. They were, they do all kinds of stuff. They blast, they deface, hundreds of feet of rock at one time. And I'm sure that they wound up coming across some limestone.
Right.
And in fact, if you go to almost any quarry, you'll notice that all of them have like a small little pond, and it's all green. Well, that green is from the limestone. Everything gets washed off from the crushers and the conveyor belts and so forth and so on, and it all runs into that, and that's what makes that pool. So I'm pretty sure that, they wind up coming across some kind of limestone.
Right. Well, the reason I ask is there's a theory about paranormal activity being more active near moving bodies of water, limestone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think I've never seen a map of that area, so I don't know if ley lines would have anything to do with it.
I don't think ley lines would. There are some ley lines there, but if there was any major ley lines, the rock hard when they're blasting and setting off their dynamite or whatever would have completely disrupted that whole thing all the time. That didn't happen, needless to say. But I do agree with you that there seems to be some kind of connection between certain minerals and paranormal phenomena. And a lot of it, if you even look up, there's some stones, some rocks, and even water are all great conductors of electricity.
Yeah. So,
could there be a connection between the two? Absolutely. And I think that's more along the lines of what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and just so our viewers will know, what do you think we're investigating? What's your personal opinion about what you think we're investigating?
I have no idea. I'll let the viewers know now. I have no idea what we're investigating. There's just a bunch of theories out there, and nobody's actually testing them, I guess you can say. They're just trying to go out and get as much evidence that they can, and by I mean evidence is pictures or audio or anything like that. But they're not actually looking into what it is we're looking for. It very much well could be people who have died. Very much well could be. It could be something from another universe, parallel dimension, or even time travelers. I don't know. The only thing I know is something definitely weird and strange is going on.
Yeah. Do you think has the activity to you bumped up in the last couple of years?
Say that again?
Do you think the activity has raised in the last couple of years? Do you think it's actually gotten things have become more active? Or are there just so many more people paying attention to it now?
I think it has decreased, and I think a lot of the reason why it has decreased is the fact that there is a lot of people out there investigating. Spirits are starting to become a bit more used to and common to what's going on. So I think they're tending to ignore people that are coming in these buildings.
Do you think they're getting tired of it, or do you think they're getting annoyed by the same 6 questions?
I think they're getting annoyed. I would personally. If someone kept asking me the same 6 questions, I'd probably want to smack him in the head and say, will you ask something different, please? But, that's just my opinion.
Well, we agree with your opinion because we've seen it. Well, and plus, if they can view this plane, if somebody was in a house that they'd been in for 100+ years in some instances, and you saw a van load or a dark colored large vehicle pull up, and 10 people boil out of it, all wearing the same T-shirt and the same blue jeans, I might wonder what the hell's fixing to go on.
It would definitely be a question, but if it's paranormal investigators, I'm sure these entities have seen over the years, hundreds of different vans, hundreds of different T-shirts that walk through the thing, and the same K2 meter over and over, and the same type of audio recorder. After a while, they're probably like, dude, I'm just going to go read a book. I'm not going to make your K2 meter go off tonight.
Right. And then on that rare occasion, you do get some response. It's usually, it's something totally, they've got to have a sense of humor on the other side.
I would imagine they do. I don't think that their personality is going to change too much.
Right.
If we are dealing with, people of the past, I don't think it's going to change. If you die being a funny guy, I think you're going to, if you're alive being a funny guy, I think you're going to die being a funny guy, If you're alive being a murderer, I think you're going to die being a murderer. I don't think that's going to change too much, their whole outlook on life. So, if you go into an investigation and if that theory does hold true that they are people from the past, then I would, recommend people just to be themselves. Stop trying to be so professional. Treat them like, you would treat anyone else. I like going in thinking, we're at a bar just hanging out, shooting pool, throwing some darts, having some chat about whatever, it don't matter. But that's the kind of, attitude that you need to go in these investigations with.
Do you like to go into investigations cold, or do you like to know the history and have names?
It all depends. It all depends. Sometimes you want to validate exactly what a particular client is discussing or what she thinks it is or whatever the case may be. So going in blinded sometimes could give that validation. However, I mean, if you're going to Rolling Hills Asylum or Penhurst or, one of those bigger name places, I don't think it really matters. I don't think it's even considered researching or investigating. You're going in there to look for ghosts. Bottom line, I mean, there's really nothing to research there. There's ghosts there. That's all there is. But when you're dealing with private residential or private client, then it's a different scenario.
Well, I asked because some people, oh, I prefer to go in cold. I don't want to know anything, and they're the first people to go. Is anybody here? Who is here?
Yeah.
When did you die? That's the original 6 questions.
Yeah, the same over and over, which I'm sure people are, again, I'm sure these ghosts are getting annoyed of hearing, but I mean, I don't think it really matters personally, as long as you can, just go in there and think of questions that are relevant to them. I mean, you don't have to ask the same thing over and over. You can, talk about politics. You can talk about, baseball, football, or local news or something, anything. You don't have to sit down and ask, who is it? How old are you? So forth and so on like that. I mean, personally, I don't even tell people how old I am, even, if I'm just hanging out. So, I mean, you definitely got to open up to a lot more barrage of different, questions in order to get the results that you want.
Well, we've had some interesting luck, or at least I have, because I know Kim hasn't ever done this that I know of. But talking about sex and food, and I don't mean the act. I don't mean you don't have to walk in there and start reading penthouse forum to these guys. That's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is if you're talking with a male spirit, you ask, well, hey, did you like redheads?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that. Some of the biggest topics, actually, in all honesty, that I think are you're going to get responses from is things like sex, things like drugs, things like music. Music is always going to be a big one, right. And why is because everybody's involved with that. Everybody has sex. Everybody has done some kind of drugs, whether if it's something minor like coffee or something major like marijuana or something like that. Everybody has experiences with that. Growing up as a kid, you've done it one way or the other. So it's easier to relate to those sort of topics.
Right. And if you're talking to a spirit from the 1840s and 50s up to the 1920s, there was cocaine and soft drinks. I mean, they prescribed heroin. I mean, there was a lot of the illegal drugs that we have now haven't always been illegal.
Well, there was mercury and iodine and everything.
Well, you had lead in the paint too, but I mean, and we ate paint chips when we were kids. And look,
you ate paint chips. I didn't eat no paint chips. Well, no, I asked because, first of all, you got the first 6 silly questions, but I tend to like the history on it. That way, if it's a child, you know to go in with this type of stuff as, opposed to the sex questions.
Well, you definitely want to go in there prepared because, again, you don't know exactly what you're dealing with when you get in there. I know a lot of TV shows and even researchers, they want to go in there completely blinded. They don't want to know nothing, and TV's going to sit down and say, oh, we can debunk everything. If you go in there with that mentality, you're leaving yourself open to something that could be possibly even more dangerous. Something that may even be attached to you. You really do want to be prepared for that in case, that situation does arise.
Well, and the whole, go ahead, you can punch me if you want. Really?
Well, that's kind of stupid. Yeah. That's kind of stupid. I always tell people, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And it's as simple as that. You don't want to do any kind of provocation. You don't want to do anything like that. Just be respectful. Be yourself. Don't be professional. Joke around. Have fun. Sometimes if you're just chatting with your friend next to you, your investigator, and you're just having small talk, you'll get responses like that. And why? Because, an entity doesn't feel threatened. They're like, hey, man, they're just talking about this or that. I'm going to try to, put a couple of my 2 cents in and see what happens. So, I mean, a lot of times that works out. Trying to maintain some kind of professionalism, you got to define exactly what's professional about this whole field, to be honest with you, in order to do that. And there's nothing. I mean, just go in there open and be experimental and just try to have fun.
Well, I think as far as professional goes, go in with respect. Don't go in cussing and acting a stinking fool.
Get permission. I think that's the biggest hurdle to the field right now is people, they won't do the small things like get permission before you go in there.
You definitely want to try to get permission,
Right.
and I don't encourage anyone going into anything without having the sufficient permission. Have I done it in the past? Absolutely. I can't lie. I have done that in the past, but you know, you always want to try to get the permission. You always want to make sure that you're safe. That's the biggest key. And you always want to make sure that, you know, when you go in there, you're not going to be, you know, hurt or affected in any way by whatever could be in there.
Yeah. Do you when you've been out and on are you still an active investigator now, Jason?
I am an active investigator. I don't get out as much as I'd like to, but I am still an active investigator. I try to get out once a month or you know, once every couple months I try to get out there, but I do as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, no, I know how tough it can be. Trust me. Well, let's move on to a very happy topic for you, I'm sure, and that's your radio show, because it's extremely popular.
I guess it's popular. I don't know.
He doesn't listen to it.
Well.
I try not to. I don't know. When I started doing the radio show, in all honesty, it took me about 2 weeks before I even agreed to doing one. I got approached by one of my old producers, Mark Wotashik, a very wonderful guy. I love him to death. And that was about 2.5 years ago, I would say. And he said, "Hey Jay, I'd like to give you a radio show. This is what we can do, and this is what we can do, and how we can do it, and so forth and so on." And I said, "I don't know, man. Let me think about it," because I didn't want popularity. I didn't want any fame. I wasn't in for this to, you know, put $1 million in my pocket. That's not who I am. I could care less about that. I mean, all I wanted to do was, you know, be respected and you know, to help further the research in any way that I can. So, I mean, it took me a while, and back then it was, the biggest thing was, you know, people going in and getting these certificates to be an investigator, and I said, you know what, people are really being misled. They really, really are.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I got to do a show. I got to do a show and get the facts out there for people. So that's pretty much how I started it, why I started it, and you know, I suppose that I've gathered, you know, quite a following. I really don't look at the numbers, but I am doing well with it. A lot of people do seem to like it, and you know, I try to keep it as funny and entertaining as I possibly can while, you know, getting out the information.
Yeah, that's been our primary motivation here with EN. It's just trying to give people good information, because we've seen so many people that are monkey see, monkey do. You know, they see it on the TV. They think that's how you're supposed to do it. That's all they know how to do.
The one thing that I noticed about TV, though, is they're starting to mellow out a little bit, and I don't know if they're listening into these radio shows. I have no idea, but it does seem like whatever's, you know, discussion is going around at that particular time on the radio shows, you wind up seeing it in the next season of Ghost Hunters or, you know, Ghost Adventures or whatever other freaking shows out there. I have no idea, but you know, they have changed their whole attitude and mentality on you know, what they're doing on those shows lately, I've noticed.
Yeah, well, and I think it's because they're losing the actual core group. You know, there's a whole bunch of people that are in the paranormal quote unquote field that they don't watch the shows because they know it's for entertainment. They know it's been faked. They know it's all in the editing. Blah blah blah. They also are part of the reality that if you go on an 8-hour investigation, you've got at least 8 hours worth of audio, and if you've got a 4-channel DVR, you got 32 hours of video to go watch.
Yeah, and a lot of those TV shows they're not going for one night or 8 hours. They're actually going 4 or 5 nights at a time.
Yeah, or a week.
Plays.
Yeah, or a week. And that's what we pieced together from the week.
Well, and there's also one show that there's always an orb somewhere, and I think most of us are just pretty darn sick and tired of the bugs and the dust.
Yeah, and there's a huge portion of the field, I think, that was a touristy that is starting to get out of the field. You know, they're starting to watch mud monsters on TV or
yeah, a lot of people,
museum or whatever.
A lot of people are getting out of the field, and it's just a fad. I'm not going to lie. The whole paranormal thing. There are those diehard researchers that are always going to be out there and researching, but you know, once the TV shows came out, it turned into the new fad at the time. And as the shows decrease, as the shows start getting like crap, and you know, a shiny object passes them, and they got to go chase that. Right. So I mean, a majority of the teams that you see, they're eventually going to die off, and they're not going to be around. And teams are starting to die off now. the numbers are just decreasing with the amount of paranormal investigators out there. And it's kind of sad because a lot of the buildings that are out there that they wind up charging you an arm and a leg, I mean, they're losing a lot of money. Some of them, I don't care if they lose money because, they just pocket it anyway for their own personal gain. They don't care about the building or the history of it. But, some of them are really good-hearted, people that want to do good for, a particular location.
Oh, absolutely. One of our favorites is up in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Shanley Hotel in Napanoch.
Uncle Sal.
Cool.
Yeah, we had a Paracon there last year in May, and actually had David Raunchy was involved. Actually brought out some brand new equipment that it was the first field trial for this equipment. Really cool stuff that went on up there, man. It was amazing.
And we had like 7 in-house psychics
running
around,
crazy.
And yeah.
But it just goes to prove that paranormal unity, as far as everybody always getting along, that's rainbows and unicorns. But but I think tolerance is an achievable goal. But just like with our experience up there in Napanoch, you can have a group of people, 30 plus people, that can be focused on one thing, and everybody can get along. You know what I mean? It's not impossible. It does happen.
Yeah, I mean, people can get along, and yeah, you are going to have those idiots out there that do nothing but cause trouble and drama between one another. And I mean, those are the ones that are going to fade out eventually. But yeah, paranormal unity, it's like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It's a great idea. It's just not going to happen.
I'm still on the wrong side of this fence. I believe it can happen, just not everybody. I think in smaller units, paranormal unity is absolutely possible.
I mean, there are people out there that will support one another. They will help another out. I'll do it anytime if anyone wants me to, review their evidence for them, or if they want me to help them on an investigation. I've got no problems doing that. I've got no problems donating any of my time to help out, and that's perfectly fine. But as long as we're going to have these socially challenged idiots out there causing problems and starting fights amongst one another, it's just not going to be a full-blown type of unity thing. It's not going to happen.
Right. No, I totally agree. Until we can get like anti-troll spray.
Well, my last private kind of proved that.
Oh yeah.
I had a private investigation the same night we had something going on at the shop, and I put it on Facebook. It's like, hey, I've got this investigation and I need help. And I had a couple come over from Louisiana and another one come down from further north to meet me and help me with this case, which unfortunately turned out to be someone looking for 15 minutes of fame. But there are people out there who are willing to help without asking, without saying, how much, or, can you put some gas in? It's just, where do you need me to be? Let's go.
Is that do you have a lot of up there in where you're at? You're still located in New York, Jason?
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of how can I say this delicately? Do you have a lot of people like trying to mark their territory up there? Does it get very territorial up there?
It does. I mean, there are not a lot, but there are some teams out there that will look at you and say, "That's my building. Don't you dare go in it. That's my personal." And I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, it's a public building.
Right.
I'm gonna go in it. I don't care. Right. And they can get pissed. They can get aggressive, whatever the case is. But in the end, I'm gonna wind up doing what I got to do. Bottom line. But you do see that around here. There are a few teams that completely are arrogant about what they're doing and how they do it.
And they want nobody in on their stuff. And as a researcher, you would think they would want as many people as possible in there to help, validate what they're getting.
You would think they would want that, but I think the whole idea of the fame and the glory and the possibility of making $1 million has completely, that's basically what's destroyed the whole paranormal community.
Well, I don't know about you, but we're swimming. I mean, we have a network, so obviously we're swimming in millions of dollars over here from the paranormal. I'm sure you're bathing in $100 bills every night.
Oh yeah, I'm swimming in it every day. No, I wish it was like that, but it's not like that. If you're in it for the fame, if you're in it for the glory, you're wasting your time. It's not there. It's not going to happen. And it's sad to see people do that. I mean, that's why there's paranormal awards. That's why everybody's trying to get these flashy symbols on their car and these cool T-shirts that are made up and all that other stuff. It's all for that fame. It's all for that glory. It's for that whole posterior that look at me, I'm fabulous, and it's crazy. It's all horseshit.
Yeah, my lovely wife here nailed it right on the head a couple years ago. She called it the Black Suburban Syndrome.
It's a good way of looking at it.
So we're trying to stop BSS.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Well, that's basically what it is. Well, they got a black Suburban. Look at their fleet of black Suburbans, and they're getting into all these cool locations, and they have a show. Well, I want that too. Well, guess what? It don't happen.
And we've interviewed multiple teams, Jason. Believe it or not, this is the worst part of this. We have interviewed multiple teams, and these are guys that do it right. That they'll have up to 3 interviews before any of their team members step in to do an investigation. So they're doing an initial. A pre-interview, they'll do a follow-up interview just to ask the same questions to see if the people are changing their story, blah, blah, blah. And they'll go through all this, and they'll go to make that last phone call on Friday afternoon at about 6 o'clock and say, hey, we're going to be there in a couple hours. And the people go, well, okay, that's great. Are you bringing the film crew with you when you come?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, that happens.
And I can't... That's where I think that's the reason why we've gotten away, or at least I have personally gotten away from doing the private investigations, because I put so much onus on the people that are there. I mean, I do understand people get caught in situations where it's something beyond their control.
I let them know right up front that this isn't TV. I'm not TV. I'm not like that. Right. I'm going to come in. I'm going to help you if you need the help, and that's the way I do. I mean, I enjoy doing private residentials because. These people, not all of them, some of them just want that fame, but, a lot of them really do need the help, and they do need help understanding exactly what the hell's going on in their house. But, yeah, you do get to some clients that are like, all right, man, you're going to come in and we're going to have my house on TV and all this other crap, and it's stupid. It is.
Yeah. Well, my last private investigation, they had contacted a well-known paranormal location way far away from here to discuss their paranormal issues, and seeing it was turned down by one of the black Suburbans, I was asked to go down there and take care of it, and that's when I asked for help. And, they had all the right answers and everything else, but then when you're sitting there listening to them when they're not being interviewed, their kids play in haunted houses every day, but they're terrified to walk in their own. What?
Yeah, they're just hoping to get some kind of recognition.
Right.
That's all they want. They want to be known. They want people calling them up. They want to be on The Haunting or whatever other stupid shows are out there that features a house and a family in trouble. And that's all they want.
Well, we got absolutely nothing, but when I called to let her know we got nothing, she 2 months ago, still hasn't returned my phone call.
No. Yeah.
They don't like it when you say there's nothing there. They hate that.
Well, they didn't like it when the camera crew didn't show up, or someone with a big name from TV did not show up.
Yeah, I would have. I like it when they ask you to come in and investigate, and the first thing you see is a plastic bag filled with psychological pills in there, right. And it's like,
right?
Are you sure this place is haunted? Are you sure? It looks like you might have missed 400 different types of pills one day.
Right.
I like it when that happens.
What was it? I just saw that on posted somewhere. It said, I like long walks on the beaches until the LSD wears off, and then I find out I'm dragging around a mannequin in Wendy's parking lot.
Right. But, I mean, and like you said, there are people that do need help. There are people that have reached the end of their belief system, I guess is the best way to put it. And they do need somebody to come in to try to explain what's going on around them because they can't.
Yeah.
But like I said, I put a lot of... I guess I'm too jaded when it comes to having people want that fame, like you said, wanting that fame and fortune. You know, because it's like you said, it's silly. It's stupid. Best case, you're going to get flown out to L.A., you're going to stay in a semi-crappy hotel for one night, and then they're going to fly you back out.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, what part of your life just got benefited from all that?
Not a damn thing. And people got to understand that. They got to get back to the roots of investigating, and that's quite simple, helping people out and trying to preserve what we can with the history and you know, whatever location you're particularly at.
Well, you know, I think that, do you think there's been some historical discoveries made that people know, that people have recorded, that they just have no idea what they've got?
I'm pretty sure there is. If people have gone over all their evidence and reviewed it over carefully, listening to, you know, every EVP, every photograph, and, you know, every picture or video that they might have gotten in a particular location, and looked at what it was doing, or try to come up with a conclusion of what it was doing, I'm pretty sure you could come up with some kind of you know, discovery or something that was going on at that particular time that could play a major role in, you know, how we view certain types of you know, psychological help or medical help or whatever it could be, or farmers, or how farmers lived back then.
Well, one of our really good friends is Johnny Hauser up there at Villisca. And I mean, that's one of the greatest unsolved crimes in America, just period.
That and Lizzie Borden.
Well, that and Lizzie Borden. But I mean, the Villisca Axe murder house, I mean, like I said, if we were ever able to help solve a crime with data collected on a paranormal investigation, I think that wouldn't prove that we're scientific in any way, shape, or form, but it would give some validity to what we do. You know, does that make any sense at all?
Yeah. I mean, there's some FBI agents out there, and there's even some police stations that'll, you know, ask the help from a psychic to help them out on an investigation. So, I mean, they are starting to branch off in that sort of genre. But if we could get those particular answers and so forth and so on, and gave it to the police, I mean, obviously it would help them further their investigation on the particular, you know, crime.
Right. Well, I have to.
But we've also seen some psychics that had no business out there trying to
might as well have
solve a crime.
Yeah, or they might as well have a fishing rod in their hand, because that's all they're doing is fishing.
Psychics have grown just like paranormal investigators. The second the fad popped up, that's it. Everybody turned into a psychic. And it's mostly females, I'm sorry, but it is. Every female out there is sensitive, medium, or most of them are just sensitive. They say, oh, I'm a bit sensitive. And I'm looking at them, you're just a bit of a moron. You know? But it's just a fad. I mean, people all of a sudden just want to be psychic.
Yeah. I have to ask you this, because we've been doing this show for about 5 years or so, and we've had some pretty funny things happen. Do you have one funny story from the radio show that just stands out head and shoulders above everything else?
A funny story in a radio show? My whole show is funny. So, I mean, to pick one is kind of hard. I remember one time, though, I had Paul Bradford on. You know, everyone knows who he is. He's, you know, he was on Ghost Hunters International, and he was the tech guy. And we were talking about, I don't know, specific lighting, you know, IR lights versus, you know, full spectrum lighting and you know, ultraviolet lights and so forth and so on. And I asked him this question. I said, hey, Paul, would you ever consider doing a porno in you know, full spectrum? And he said, Jay, I think they already made one. And I was like, really? So, I mean, we kind of had a laugh over that.
Wow. You know, it wouldn't surprise me that it's out there.
I wouldn't be shocked either. It probably just went out there somewhere.
Because I've been told, I've never actually seen it myself, but I've been told that there are several tapes out there of porn that are on the IR light.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, lighting is pretty important, I guess, when you make those home videos. I have no idea. I've never made one, but you know, being experimental in that kind of genre, absolutely. Why not? Throw it out there. You know, if you want to make one in full spectrum or IR, knock your socks off. Yeah.
Well, you'd have to get your socks off for traction, but that's a whole nother story there.
I don't know. I like my socks on.
I guess you could. What was that movie about the Louisiana governor where he talked about leaving his boots on for traction or something like that?
It was Burt Reynolds.
No, it was Paul Newman that played the governor. I can't remember.
But Burt Reynolds was in it.
I think so, maybe.
And Demi Moore.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What inspired? I know you wanted to get the good information out to everybody, but to stay relevant and stay popular with the show, I mean, you have to have a burning passion for it. What keeps you going with the show?
What keeps me going doing the show?
Yeah.
I guess just meeting new people is the best way to say it. I mean, I've been given, I guess, if you want to consider it that, a gift of chatting and talking and entertaining people. And a lot of people seem to like that. And if I can put a smile on, one person's face for, just an hour or two, that's the greatest accomplishment that anyone can, give.
I can agree with that.
Well, that and it keeps us out of 7-Elevens at midnight.
Well, that's true. That's true. There is that court order about the 7-Elevens. I know there are. I know we'd mentioned earlier that you'd mentioned that the numbers are actually decreasing, and I would agree with that. But there's always going to be kind of a new influx. I guess you could say it's the hipster effect, because when everybody's not doing it, they're going to want to say they're doing it, that kind of thing.
Well, there's always going to be an interest. That's never going to die out. Everybody's going to be interested in the paranormal. Even before the TV shows were extremely popular and the fad started and, all this other crap. Even back when I was a teenager, not able to mention the fact that I'm looking for ghosts because I'd get locked up, there was still that interest amongst, a large crowd. Even back then there were TV shows of ghost stories and, so forth and so on. And there's always someone, well, I don't know, but back then, everybody played with a Ouija board. Everybody. So the interest has always been there. And even after the fad dies, I think the interest is even going to continue. So, I mean, to hear someone's ghost story and so forth and so on, I don't think that's ever going to die.
Well, we did the history on ghost stories, so to speak. And the first movie about a ghost was actually like 1912.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, and specifically the reason I was asking that, Jason, is what would be your suggestion to somebody just getting into this?
My suggestion?
Yeah, what's the one suggestion you would give to a rookie researcher or investigator that's just getting started, that has that burning passion, like you said, that interest?
Just be respectful. Be as respectful as you can and take it from there.
Yeah.
It's be respectful as you can, and after you review your first 97 hours, come talk to me and let me know if you're still interested.
Yeah.
That's the worst part, is reviewing all of it. That does suck. Yeah. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of dedication. Some people prefer to do nothing but analyzing and review. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'll be more than happy to send them anything I get to review for me. Got no problems with that, but it is horrible. It's just sitting down, watching yourself on camera or your friends on camera and listening to yourself on audio for countless of hours.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about some of the techniques they're using now, where they're doing like burst EVPs for 5 or 10 minutes, and then going and reviewing that right then?
Interesting enough, I used to do that way back when I first actually started going into buildings illegally. I call those blast investigations. This is going back 15 years ago. The door is open, you go in there, and you just go in there for about 15 minutes to an hour, anywhere in between there. Do what you can and get the hell out of there so that you don't get caught. And now you're seeing stuff like that on TV, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, I've got no problems with people doing that. It can be effective. Absolutely can, but I think in the long run that taking your time and trying to warm up to whatever is in there so that it does feel comfortable enough to chat with you is the best way to go.
Well, do you think that with these little 15-minute EVP episodes that we found that when we're not paying attention is when we get the best stuff?
Sure.
Like someone's getting out of the truck and accidentally hits the on button on the recorder. That's when we're getting stuff. The 15-minute blast, to me, there's so much you might be missing.
Or is it only 15 minutes because that's all their YouTube account can upload at one time? I'm just saying.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
Probably. I mean, it can be effective, like I said. It all depends how you're approaching it, and it all depends exactly what you're doing with it. Sometimes in that 15 minutes, if you're just walking into a building in 15 minutes, a lot of times you'll wind up getting, something a bit more aggressive that's going to wind up coming through, which has completely messed up the paranormal community as well. And it's mostly because, an entity doesn't want you in there, and it's trying to say, hey, look, just get the hell out of here. I don't want you in here. But, you do have to be patient. You do have to take your time, and you do have to go in for a lot longer in order to get, the evidence that you really do need for a particular location.
Right.
I just think turning the voice recorder on and off, that there's so much time that you could be getting something that you're not going to because you're turning it off and re-listening. And
well, you don't want to just turn it off and turn it on all the time. Don't do that. I mean, once your recorder's on, just leave it on. Completely leave it on, unless, the only time I'll suggest somebody shutting their recorder off is if you're planning on switching an area, a particular area in that location. Because, let's just face it. If you're walking, let's say, up the stairs, and let's just say you're in Rolling Hills Asylum. The place is pretty well beaten down, and you're walking up the stairs. You're going to hear, you and then whoever you have with you, it's probably 2 or 3 other people, walking around, joking, farting, doing whatever the hell you can. And the last thing you want is to listen to that on audio. You're not going to really hear anything. And even if you do hear something, it's always going to be questionable.
Right. And heaven forbid somebody's wearing corduroy.
Oh, yeah. Corduroy is horrible. or another bad thing is the sneakers with the straps on it, because that tends to pull and contract, and you hear that.
Well, I got a better one for you. We have a very good friend of ours, Tommy Golden, that's actually an amputee just below the knee on one side, and he does have one of those high-tech prosthetics with a hydraulic cylinder. And every now and again you'd be walking around with Tommy and you'll hear and it's just that cylinder equalizing itself, and he'll walk around, it's almost like farting for him. He'll actually say leg, so you know what's going on. But you are correct. It's always people don't kind of realize that sometimes.
Yeah. So once you get into a particular area in a building, keep your recorders on. Let it run until you're done with that area, and then if you want to shut it off, I would appreciate it, because like I said, you get a lot of outside interference and interference amongst that particular group that's going to mess anything up anyway.
Yeah. Well, you wrote Unrested Peace, Jason. Have you got another book in the works?
I am working on another book. It's called Feeble Minds. It's about a particular location that I do down by New York City, closer to New York City. It's a nice building, actually, and it's going to go a lot more onto the history of this particular location, as well as the paranormal. It's going to be a lot more diverse, and in all honesty, I'm throwing in, and it's going to be interesting actually, but it's going to be a fiction and nonfiction all in the same book. It's obviously going to be a tale of myself going in there, and the things that have happened to me in that particular location is going to be 100% accurate. But an interesting thing about that particular building is once they closed it up, they left a lot of records in there. Patient records, so forth and so on. And I remember one time, when I first went in there, this is going back probably about 9 years ago, I was sifting through the records and trying to vision exactly how these people, were taken care of, how they lived, how their day-to-day activities and so forth and so on. So when I'm writing this book, I'm putting a whole flashback scene in there where, it's going to be back, in early 1900s, mid-1900s, 1950s and stuff of, what they probably went through, but it's all based on what my interpretation is of what I read.
Wow.
Well, we found hospital records.
Yeah, they weren't any patient records, but they were financial.
Right.
That was that was a very interesting situation. But you have a release date? Are you still writing, or?
I'm still in the writing process. I'm hoping it'll be done in August or September. So I'm guessing in between there. I could be wrong. This one's going to be a lot longer. The first book that I wrote on Recipes, which it is a very good book from what I hear. A lot of people seem to love it, at least. I'm the worst person to judge my own work. It's like, it's okay, just read it. It'll be all right. But that one was a short. It was only about 150 pages. It wasn't long at all. And I just wanted to throw it out there to see what people would think of it, and whether or not if anyone can relate to it in any way or help them out in any way. But this next one is going to be a lot more diverse. It's going to be a lot longer, and it's going to have a lot more in it, and it's going to share actually a lot more about my personal life than the first one.
It sounds like it's going to be a lot more fun for you, though.
It's a lot more work. So I'm hoping that'll be out in August or September.
Awesome. And tell the people one more time they can find you on DT and Wicked Radio, but it's on Mondays and Tuesdays?
It's on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays it's on from 6 to 8, and Tuesdays it's on from 9 to 11. This week, who do I have? I have Jen Cooper on Monday and Carmen Reed on Tuesday. Awesome. So it's going to be a fun night.
Awesome. And that's Ghost Chat Radio.
Yeah, that's what people call it. But I mean, everyone will like it. I'm sure they will. It's like I said, I try to make it as funny as I can. I pretty much will talk about anything on my show, and I probably said anything on my show, and I might have offended a few people too during the way, but it's all good. But it's a more laid back show. It's relaxed. It's a good atmosphere. It's a lot of jokes. It's a lot of funny business. And you know, the information that's important gets out there. So I mean, it's a pretty good show.
Right. Gotta ask you this. Ever used a Ouija board or got any opinions about the Ouija board?
I've never personally used one. However, I am researching the whole theory behind it. A lot of people say it's a gateway. A lot of people say they're pure evil. I have done the research on it and history of it. A lot of people try to, well, they try to express an opinion, and they go into witch boards and Ouija boards being different when in all honesty they're completely the same. But I am researching it. I want to actually find out whether if it is a gateway or not. And so far, I got to tell you, it's not a gateway. I'll be the first to tell you. I went out and I bought one. I don't know, probably about 6 months ago, and I opened it up and I put the pancetta on right smack dead in the center of it, like it says you should, and I put a camera on it and let it roll for about 4 hours, and left my house. Came back and reviewed that evidence, and the pancetta never moved. It never even vibrated anywhere. So I thought to myself, well, maybe it needs electricity. So I ran the same tests, but this time I put an EM pump next to it. And again, I put a camera on it, left the house, and let it run for 4 hours. And again, nothing happened. Not a damn thing happened. And I did these 2 tests, several times. It's not like the first, I did it once. So I ran it several times, and nothing happened. So it needs human element, which leads me to believe that it's not a gateway. It's not a tool of destruction. The problems that come with it is all in the operator. Yeah. I mean, they're not, phrasing their questions properly, or they're not, asking for something a bit more specific. Because, I mean, you could take a K2 meter and go out there, and if you're asking for anything to come and talk with you, anything is probably going to come and talk to you. So, I mean, just be careful what you ask whenever you're using those particular boards, and you should be okay.
Yeah, it's all about intention, I think.
Yeah, I think the intention is important too.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're, to a certain degree, you can influence. The investigator does influence the environment you're in.
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to influence. We're all made of energy. If you were to go in and get some kind of brain scan done, they're hooking up an EKG machine to you to visually be able to see that flow of electricity going through your brain. So I mean, we all have electrical energy. We have those impulses. We have all that. Sometimes if you get hot enough, you don't even need to touch your hand, and you can feel the heat coming off of you.
Right.
A woman's genitalia, you can hold your hand out 6 inches from that thing and feel the heat. So, I mean, it's energy being released into the atmosphere. So, I mean, your own personal energy is definitely going to affect things.
Right. And I think people don't, that's not something they ever talk about on TV, because it just doesn't make good television.
No, it doesn't make good television. I think TV could be useful if they did it right, but they don't. They just go out for the ratings, and that's about it. Prime example, if they wanted to fake evidence, have at it, fake evidence, but turn it into some kind of learning process or education purpose or something like that, so that, information does get to these people that are, looking at it and saying, I can do that. I can buy that gear and go out and do it. Try to teach people, help people out a little bit.
Yeah. And not everything they've ever done is bad, but so little of it has been good.
Oh yeah, so little of it's been. Yeah, a lot of it's been horrible on TV.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't watch the shows that much. I used to, and they just got boring. They got cliche. They got.
When we do happen to catch a paranormal show, we're generally throwing a brick at the TV. It's a foam brick, so it's okay. But I mean, we're generally throwing something at the television or critiquing what they're doing.
Just for entertainment.
I
laugh at
it.
Yeah. I could tell you a messed up story though that may even make you laugh. One of those TV shows, while I was on the air, I was kind of making fun of one of them at one time. I'm not going to mention which one. And my producer at the time had to go to break, and I've made fun of this TV show, this particular person, multiple times in the past, and just continued on doing it. And I did it this one night, and my producer said, "Hey Jay, we got to cut the break real quick." So we cut the break, and he's talking to me. He said, "Jay, we just got a phone call from his lawyer. You can't talk about him no more." So I had to make a public apology.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be a little more thick-skinned about it.
You think so, but no, they're a bunch of crybabies.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Well, not all of them. We do know some that are really.
Yeah, we do know some. We actually even know a few that on TV come off as being
a lot arrogant
or a little bit assholish, but in real life they're the nicest human beings you'd ever want to meet.
I guess that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and they, when you critique them, they laugh with you because they realize. Yeah. There was a specific episode where someone had like 12 pieces of equipment in the hallway, and all 12 pieces of the equipment's battery died, and he forgot to bring extra batteries.
Yeah, and that's the same guy.
And I gave him such a hard time, and he's like, "Yeah, I felt so stupid." He said, and there was nothing I could do, and they refused to edit that out.
Yeah. It happens.
Oh yeah.
Batteries is the important thing. Always check your batteries. Another good topic happens to be batteries. A lot of people always assume that battery drainage is a sign of paranormal phenomena, which it could be. It could be. I'm not going to deny that, but a lot of people don't put two and two together and realize that the same equipment over and over and over are the only ones that are experiencing battery drains, and that's your cameras all the time. Why? Why is it the same thing? There's a good chance that that particular device is just using a lot of electricity. Right.
Mine's my voice recorder, and it doesn't drain. It actually waits till the most inopportune moment and turns itself on and replays what I've already recorded.
Things like that is a bit more interesting, though, when it comes to paranormal phenomena. I mean, that's something that you could use as evidence.
Well, and the way I have it, I have a Velcro wristband, but I put it on my forearm and away from me, so it's never touching me to where I can't bump it in any way. And you'll be walking down a hallway, and all of a sudden you'll hear your own voice, and it's like, that is creepy. But my voice recorder turns itself back on and hits replay.
It wants you to hear your own voice.
I don't like my own voice. I don't need to hear it.
Well, maybe it don't like it either. It says, "Can you hear yourself? God damn it! You sound like a fool."
I know that's right.
Yeah. Well, Jason, sir, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. We're going to definitely have you back here in a little while.
Excellent. Anytime.
And once again, people can find you at ghostchatradio.weebly.com.
You can find me there. You can go to dtmwickedradio.com and listen to me there. That's where that's where the shows are broadcasted from. And you can always look me up on Facebook. Just type in Ghost Chat Radio. There's a fan page. You can like it and chat with me there if you want. Or you can just message me directly on my personal Facebook page at which is Jason Stanton.
Awesome. And for everybody out there, if you're going out investigating this weekend, be careful. Be safe. And write it down.
And depending on where you're at, well, regardless of where you're at, stay hydrated.
Yeah, it is that time of year. Alrighty, everybody, have a safe weekend. We'll see y'all later.
All right, talk to you later, man.
Bye-bye.